were hounded out of office effectively by forces beyond your control, but
Correct.
she's part of that.
She is. I mean, in Britain, it was the Bank of England who were responsible for the market crisis in 2022. They subsequently admitted they were responsible, but there's been very little coverage in the press of that. And they were in cahoots with the IMF, with the World Bank, with Joe Biden, who was then in the White House. And Rachel Reeves is part of that way of thinking.
Yeah.
More taxes, more regulation, net zero to push up energy costs, mass migration. And it's an economic model that isn't working.
Was the cause of Liz Truss's downfall from Prime Minister, the Bank of England and the deep state? In this video, Liz Truss joins Bev Turner on GB News Late Show. She breaks down what really caused her downfall as Prime Minister. They also cover Rachel Reeves, the economy and the state of Britain under Labour. Plus we unpack the foundational leadership principle of mindset. What do you think really took Liz Truss down? Let's find out. But before we get into the details, if you love diving into political issues and enjoy hearing a principled take on them, then hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to join the conversation. It will help our channel reach a wider audience.
With the IMF, I'm not a fan of the IMF, the World Bank, and all of these international bodies that are out of touch, frankly, with what's going on in the world. And it was no surprise that Rachel Reeves, who's one of their true believers, was here.
And when you say she's a true believer, you mean that she's very much within that, because you've talked about the deep state a lot. You've talked about how you were hounded out of office effectively by forces beyond your control, but
Correct.
she's part of that.
She is. I mean, in Britain, it was the Bank of England who were responsible for the market crisis in 2022. They subsequently admitted they were responsible, but there's been very little coverage in the press of that. And they were in cahoots with the IMF, with the World Bank, with Joe Biden, who was then in the White House. And Rachel Reeves is part of that way of thinking.
Yeah.
More taxes, more regulation, net zero to push up energy costs, mass migration. And it's an economic model that isn't working. And you can see it's not working in Britain. It's not working in France. It's not working in Germany. The only country that is moving ahead because they're fracking, it's about energy dominance, it's about cutting taxes, is America. And what's quite interesting, even here in the US, President Trump still faces a lot of the same economic establishment views, economists criticizing his tariff policies, they criticize his energy policies. They tried to stop the One Big Beautiful Bill, and they said that it would result in lower taxes, but actually it's working, and the American economy is doing well. So we all face this problem of these, essentially left-wing economists who have been in charge for the last 30 years.
Well, it is terrifying. You're not only an ex-Prime Minister, you're also a citizen of the UK, so you feel it as well, don't you, when the economy is going so badly? But front pages of all the papers tomorrow, Liz, Prince Andrew being forced to give up his royal titles. You, obviously, you were the last Prime Minister under Queen Elizabeth.
That's correct, yes.
How would she feel today? She'd be appalled, wouldn't she?
I'm sure she would be. It's obviously a very, it's terrible, and it's a sad story about what has happened.
Yeah.
And I know that she was very fond of Prince Andrew. And
has the king done the right thing? Because
I think he has.
He's allowed.
And, we've seen it all. We've seen it all play out.
He's allowed his brother to give up the titles as opposed to have them taken off him, hasn't he? To give him some sort of sense of, I don't know, self-respect, pride, self-esteem. Still gets to live in the 30-bedroom house, though, in Windsor, so we shouldn't feel too sorry for him, should we? Should he be allowed to, do you think, still live like that?
Look, I think in the scheme of things, it's a matter for the king.
Yeah.
It's a matter for the king, and what's important is that, and you mentioned, late Queen Elizabeth, she did such a brilliant job of just creating that sense of continuity and stability, and boy, do we need that now. Boy, do we need that now, because the political scene is very, very fractious, as you know. People are so angry with what's going on. Starmer's at 15% in the poll. He's the most unpopular Prime Minister on record.
Yeah.
He's probably more unpopular than King John was when the barons forced him to sign Magna Carta. This is a very, very fractious situation, and we do need a head of state who's, an area of stability.
As a Conservative, how frustrating is it for you to think that that election was lost because the British public didn't necessarily want Keir Starmer and Labour, but they were just so tired of 15 years of Conservatives and they felt that their lives weren't better when that election was held?
I think that's absolutely fair. The public were absolutely right. And this is what I tried to do in 2022, is escape from the doom loop of economic stagnation. And we've been there since the year 2000. Just remember, in the year 2000, the average Brit was roughly as rich as the average American. And you're here in America, Bev. People here are 50% better off now.
Yeah.
The average bit is poorer than the average person in Mississippi, which is the poorest US state. And we've got it wrong for 30 years. You know, taxes are too high, the government's too big, the welfare state's too big. Our energy prices are sky high. We're closing down every serious industry in the country, from steel works to car factories. And we're at the end game of that. And frankly, the Conservatives did not change that. And we didn't, my fundamental critique after fighting all these battles for 10 years as a government minister is we didn't reverse the Tony Blair stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't reverse the Human Rights Act. We didn't reverse the Climate Change Act. We didn't reverse the Equality Act. We didn't reverse the Constitutional Reform Act that gave the judges all the power, and they're completely unaccountable as well now. And the public were absolutely right to give us a massive kicking.
But why do you think that was? Why was there not enough change? What I notice here is Trump has this clear ideology, America first. It underpins all of his decisions. I can't imagine a prime minister in the UK. And to be fair, you were the closest that came to that. You had a really clear vision.
I tried to do that. I tried to turn Britain around. I knew it was going in the wrong direction. But my problem was that I didn't have the support of enough people in the Conservative Party. That's the bottom line, that when the going got tough, when the Bank of England pointed the finger at me, when it was actually their fault, rather than backing me, the Conservative MPs created trouble. And the reason is, and it goes back to the Cameron era, the modernisers, people like Michael Gove, Francis Ford, all these people, they wanted to be the heir to Blair.
Yeah.
They didn't actually want to change any of this stuff. Do you remember that they called Blair the master?
Yeah.
And the problem is those people still held a lot of power in the Conservative Party, and they stopped.
Is Blair still running the country?
Well, I think he is the last Prime Minister that was actually running Britain. And what he did is he handed over huge amounts of power to the Bank of England, to the bureaucrats, to the judges, to the human rights lawyers. And that's why nobody has actually been able to do anything like deport illegal immigrants or stop the net zero nonsense, because those pieces of legislation are still there, and fundamentally no one's been prepared to take these people on. And I discovered this. I knew I was always fighting that battle when I was a minister, but when I got to number 10, I realised the way these people had power. They had connections in the mainstream media. They can basically make your life pretty much impossible.
Who is Kemi Badenoch then? Is she aware of that? Is she prepared to take
I think those people are still in control in the Conservative Party. I've seen no evidence that they actually are saying we made a mistake by going along with Blairism. It ruined the economy. It's ruining our society. We've got a huge problem with migration now and Islamism. We were wrong on net zero. We should have got on with fracking. The Conservative Party still doesn't back fracking, for example, which I think is vital. If you look at one of the biggest differences between Britain and America, they got on with fracking. Their energy prices are a quarter of what they are in Britain. Can you imagine what the economic boom would be out?
When leaders care more about other countries than their own, the nation suffers. A mindset stuck in the same loop after repeated failures cannot fix anything. Mindset isn't one principle, it's the foundation of all others. Strategy, communication, and decision making all flows from how a leader thinks. If your circle shares that failing mindset and the country keeps failing, it's time to walk away from that circle and don't circle back to them. True leaders put their people and nation first. Every decision must serve that goal. If you hand power to foreign entities and refuse laws that protect your citizens, you do not belong in the role. The moment you take office, one question must dominate your thinking. How do I make this country safer, stronger, and more prosperous? Build a team with that same kind of thinking to take the country forward. When results turn worse, pause, examine your ideas. If they are consistently not working, change them. Judges who refuse to align with the laws of the land must go. A Bank of England governor chasing net zero while the economy burns must go. International bodies blocking your nation's progress, quit them. Be a leader who observes what is going on around you. If there are people who are not doing their jobs to benefit the country, you will have to replace them. Be the leader who is determined to do what's best for your country to grow, thrive, and prosper. Your mindset decides the nation you build. Start today. Write down one belief holding you back from putting your country first. Replace it with a thought that serves your people. Share that new mindset in the comments. If you have benefited in any way from this video, please subscribe, like, share, and be sure to leave us a comment.